I am just wrapping up my time here in Paris. I've been at EXP Con International in Paris, and it's my first international conference with EXP. And so I just wanted to give a little kind of some takeaways for anybody who maybe would consider going in the future, and then just underlying what I took away, what's going on at EXP that you should know about. So first and foremost, I've been to the last two EXP cons since we've been at EXP in the States. Not been to one of the international ones yet. It is a relatively new venture that they are branching out into all these new countries. And so I wanted to check it out. I happened to be passing through Paris the day it started. So I said, I've got to go. So all I have to say, it is a different experience than EXP Con that we're used to in the States, mostly just because of size. I know in Miami last year, I think there was 5,000 or 6,000 people. And so that lends itself to a very different experience, people bringing entire teams versus those that travel, internationally, and the amount of agents that are in the international community. And so one of the things that was interesting is it was just a more intimate experience. It was a smaller venue overall. You didn't have the hubbub of the full exhibition hall like they do at EXP Con, which made it really nice. There was opportunity to sit and talk with people, but I don't think that's going to last forever. I think this is going to be something that's going to get big fast because there is so much traction in the international community right now for what EXP is bringing. Breaking down barriers between countries that have existed for a long time, and not barriers as in, agents and how they work, but governmental overlays or just standards and traditions of how the industry has worked. It's amazing how the countries, even just in Europe and throughout the UK, operate so very differently. It's very different than the way, in the States, how our states operate. There's differences. These are dramatic differences. And so finding agents and bringing them to a new model is giving them a lot of different opportunity, which I think is fantastic because they're actually now have a connectivity with a brand that is behind them trying to break down some of those barriers that have maybe held some of these markets out from efficiencies that these markets will have in the future. The US is a very efficient real estate market in the sense that you kind of know what to expect. You've got opportunity and access. There's not so many barriers that there seem to be. I found it very interesting talking to somebody from London that buyer agency is not a thing there. It is essentially listing agents. They charge a lot less in terms of compensation. And that's just how it's always been. He said, unless you're buying like a, 10 million pound flat in London, that's reserved for the super wealthy to actually have a buyer agency. I don't know why, but seeing all those differences was very interesting. All that to say, I think there were 600 people in attendance. I would be willing to bet in the near future we see that take a massive step forward. They did announce the next EXP Con International next spring or summer is going to be in Colombia. So Latin America starting to see a lot of growth. There was a couple speakers there from Colombia and Mexico, parts of South America, Spain, and they are starting to see some immense amount of traction. And so that'll be one that, especially for us from Florida, a little closer to home, a little easier to get to. But I would be willing to make a solid bet that that's going to be an even larger turnout there. I was amazed how many Americans came to EXP Con International. One of the other things was, just kind of one of the takeaways. I was like, wow, I didn't know. I knew they said it would be in English for the most part, and most of it was, but I didn't realize how many Americans would make the trip for that. And it was a really, I don't know the numbers. I'd be willing to bet half, of the international crowd. And what you got to remember, some of these countries maybe only have, even though they've been open for the last 6 months or 8 months, may only have 25 agents or so in the country. Talk to somebody from the Netherlands, and they're building. But it's slow. When you are coming in as something new and unknown, it is a slow build. But same in the UK, there's a lot more agents. I think it just had a little bit longer runway there. But I was amazed how many Americans. I thought, what a great idea. Just make EXP Con International your travel planning. Wherever they go, you go. Meet some people, build some referral networks, and write off a great trip. So just a thought, throw that out there. One of the conversations that was laced throughout both days of conference was AI. It is the topic, of course, the topic of all topics right now. And I'll say I'm pretty far advanced in this space. I believe not, but it changes so often. And that was kind of the common takeaway is like, if you feel like you've not started or you're left behind, it's not too late. Just start. Like, just start learning and practicing and trying things. But it was interesting stat said 82% of agents are using AI. And by using, you check the box saying, yeah, I help it. It helps me write my emails. It helps me do a little research, whatever it is. That is like Google, 10 years ago. 17 of people, of agents that were in this study claimed that it was actually helping them in their business. Like, it was moving the needle. It was taking things off their plate they would otherwise be doing. And so we've got to understand there's a lot to still learn, and it's going to continue to change. The world is trying to figure this out. I know we're in our own bubble in the States, and we're trying to figure it out for ourselves, and it's frustrating and it's challenging, and there's something new every week. Honestly, like someone said it from stage, said some of the platforms, the LLM models, will change. They'll come on, they'll be pulled off for regulation, and they'll fix themselves and be back live before many agents check their voicemail. And I thought that was a great way to like put it, is like, it is moving so fast. Your frustration with it doesn't matter, because the frustrations from yesterday aren't frustrations today, because they keep changing. They keep making it easier and easier and easier, and it gets smarter and smarter and smarter. So you've got to be engaged with that. One of the announcements that was made, and I'll leave it at this, was a program that EXP is rolling out in beta currently, about to be rolled out into an alpha, but it will be it's called Nexus. Nexus is announced as a platform that is going to be integrated into all of your EXP business, because that's one of the primary things that people struggle with, is how do you get data into your models, and how do you do it well? How do you integrate all of these things? And all the systems are getting better integration. But EXP is rolling out a system so it knows your business, it knows your requirements. Think about all the things you have when you log into your EXP hub. Imagine just having all of that information in real time, always updated, available to your AI assistant. And then they're also making Nexus have an open API so you can tie in your Claude, your ChatGPT, whatever it is, to that system. So you're going to be able to run your business in a very, very seamless way. So I thought that was an amazing announcement. I can't wait to see when it rolls out. I got signed up to be on the to try and get logged in there and start seeing behind the curtain a little bit. So I will have more to share there, but that is going to be one of the linchpins, is you're getting that information seamlessly to help us run our businesses better, so that we can stay out of the pocket from being behind a computer and developing, to actually being in front of people and letting our business work for us in the background. It's what everybody wants. It's still hard to do, but it's getting so much easier. That's it. I'm going to go catch a plane.